Anti-property confiscation.
Anti-property confiscation training. So I'm going to be giving a just kind of currently like what's going on, and then Chris will be coming up and talking about the specific details and the collection process and what we're looking for in people's rights and things like that. And then Dayton will be coming in and talking about the actual action plan. So what's currently going on are a lot of sweeps. And so, and they've really ramped up in recent months in particular. So currently there is this thing called HSOC, which is the Healthy Streets Operations Center. So this is a coordinated effort between city departments to respond to encampments and street homelessness and issues like this. So this is with SFPD, Department of Public Works, the Homeless Department, and other departments all kind of mixed in. But hi Flo. But the so coordinated effort sounds like a really good thing, you know, folks working together. But the reality is that we have a lack of resources. There's over 1,000 people on the single adult shelter wait list. So this coordinated effort, if you don't have resources to actually connect folks to, then you're going to see massive enforcement, which is what we're currently seeing. So there is kind of an obsession that the city has with tents at the moment, as well as with people's belongings that are out there. And so SFPD and DPW, Department of Public Works, have been taking the lead, and they've been going through and taking people's stuff and violating their rights. So we've got an example. I was speaking with someone the other day who works, you know, within the field, and was saying that seeing a lot of people's HIV medications being tossed, thrown away, Narcan, and then the very next day after there was a sweep and they took all their stuff, someone overdosed and died, and they didn't have Narcan. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of stuff. So this is going to be focused specifically on the property confiscation of people, and so by the city. And so we're going to be collecting the declarations, and I'm going to have Chris. Is there anything more I need to go over? Cool.
I have a bunch of questions.
I could talk about it for a couple hours.
So my name's Chris Herring. I'm an organizer with the Coalition on Homelessness Human Rights Work Group, and also a PhD researcher at UC Berkeley who has done work around pushing against the city criminalizing homelessness. And what I'm going to talk about now is the current official policies of DPW and SFPD around property and how they should be handling it, because they're not following this policy. So it's important that we all understand what this policy looks like. Then I'm going to go over our campaign strategy of how we're going to try to address this and get them to start following their policies and preventing the destruction of homeless property, and go into the details of how all of you will help us collect declarations and testimony from people who are facing this.
Chris, could you take a step back, because there has been...
Be necessary for this is for us to understand what the SFPD and DPW are supposed to do. So in your handout into this guide to collecting declarations and evidence of property destruction, on the back page, under background, is an overview of what this policy looks like. And before diving into this, I want to just briefly talk about the history of this policy, because this actually comes out of our last legal campaign, where we had a similar effort to get them to change their policies. So 3 years ago, we worked with the LLCR, the Lawyers,
LCC, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights.
Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights here in San Francisco, because at the time there was a similar situation going on of destruction of people's property. And it actually violated what a lot of other cities and counties had determined was unconstitutional. Basically, they were saying that if a person is not present at the time when SFPD and DPW show up, we're going to classify that as abandoned property and can throw it all away, no matter what's in that property. Very different if the SFPD and DPW were to come across, you know, a briefcase on the street, or other people's personal property, right? So they rewrote the policy once we pressured them, and we currently have a lawsuit with Caltrans right now. We were going to sue the city, but decided not to because we got them to change the policy in paper. And what they changed this to is the policy we're going over today, where they now have this distinction between temporarily unattended property and abandoned property, and they have a process where if it's abandoned, they're supposed to store it and bag and tag it. What we know is that they're not doing this. In the month of April, when they did a number of sweeps out on mission and recorded in their own data that they took over 100 tents, there were only reports of less than a dozen items bagged and tagged, right? So if you go on the background here, this just goes over their current policy. So this is how San Francisco is supposed to decide if the homeless person still wants his or her personal property. And they say that unattended property is not abandoned if A, the owner is there and says it is his or her property. And we have multiple accounts and actually video already collected of the owner telling them that they want their property and police standing between them and the DPW truck taking this property. So this is not being followed all the time. If the owner returns while the property is being collected and says it is his or her property, if the property is stored in a way that it looks like the owner intends to come back for it, and finally, if another person is present and states that they have been designated to watch or take care of the items during the owner's absence. These are all the DPW's policies. This is their own words. And this is how they're defining unattended property that may be thrown away. If it presents an immediate health or safety risk, including toxic sharps, chemicals, items that are soiled with urine, fecal matter, or mold, including bedding and clothing, perishable items, perishable food, stuff infested by rodents and insects, furniture or bulky items, trash, garbage, or debris, and illegal items. And they say if these items are commingled with this toxic stuff, then it presents a health and safety risk, and they can throw it all away. Now, if this property is unattended and it's clean and not a danger, then what they're supposed to do is what they call bag and tag these items, and this is the last section here. And they're supposed to label where they found it and at what time, so that the person can go to the DPW yard and be able to pick it up. They should be able to pick it up any time of day within the first 3 days, and then after that there are specific hours listed here from 9 to 3 p.m. After 90 days, if they're unclaimed, the items will be, we don't know, but they're no longer responsible for them. So this is the policy. It's really important to familiarize it with folks. One of the goals is to educate people about their property rights on the streets. We have a handout that we'll also be handing out. But these are basically what they're saying they're supposed to follow. However, we've now heard multiple times of violations on all of these counts. So, yeah.
I'm just curious, so that including toxic sharps, does that include ones that are in bio buckets? I mean, if it's a sharps container and it's properly sealed, it sounds like that and the perishable food thing is a license for them to, oh, you got a sandwich, it's perishable, I'm going to throw all your stuff away.
Right, and it used to be that they would just define unattended property as garbage, and this is a serious risk. So we do have, when folks are experiencing their property being taken, we have some strategies of how to record video to get at this. And we're going to push for the city that if they're going to destroy, right now they take a lot of photos before and after as they're cleaning sites. One of the policies we're going to press for is if you're going to destroy people's property, that you take photos to justify, that destruction. But so you're right, there is this worry that no matter how much of the declarations we get, the city's going to come back and say, well, look, we've just got a bunch of, there's a health risk here, and we have to throw this away. So, and this gets to the next part, which is what the goals of our campaign are. Well, one part is this legal strategy that we want to sue the city and show that they're violating people's rights. And these declarations will be used as the basis, and if we're able to contact the people so that they would be able to testify on this stuff, there might be a good case. And in the Cal State case, against Caltrans, we have some witnesses who experienced some pretty brutal stuff, and some of which we have video footage of, and you'll need a few clients for that. But what we want to do is be able to show that there is a clear trend and pattern here and record that testimony. So with the legal strategy, we have these declarations that we worked out with Bay Area Legal. And what we're asking for is, when you're approaching folks to get their declaration, is we're looking for people who have witnessed property destruction of their property or other people's property by the SFPD, DPW, parks, any city agency, which to their understanding that this was a destruction against the person's will or against their own will. In our last legal campaign, we were just getting people to report property that they had lost or thought they had lost through DPW or SFPD. What we're really looking for here are people who have witnessed this process of property confiscation, and for them to answer questions about how that process occurred. And so this is what we worked out with the team of lawyers for like the important questions that would be able to build this case. And so we're hoping to show that there is a systemic pattern here to build a case, to work with the lawyers, and to try to bring a case on this. Now, likely we're going to also need more than that. Yeah, we might find like a star defendant who we're able to contact and like be able to show this, but our broader strategies are also to create enough testimony that the coalition can organize around this, tell people stories, to bring their voices into places like the local homeless coordinating board, where they're having a hearing on HSOC on Tuesday, or to City Hall, where we're hoping to get one of the supervisors to hold a hearing evaluating this HSOC. And so having these declarations will help us build the case, but we're also going to be asking you, as you're out there talking to people and gathering these declarations, to see if they'd be willing to tell their story, either on audio or video, of what they experienced. And that's on the first page of this guide here, about approaching people and taking declarations and recordings. And what we really want here is also to be able to, again, bring people's voices who aren't usually able to attend these city hearings, possibly also use their stories in an edited video on social media and other places. So if people are willing to do this, and you can talk about these uses, we also have, which you'll be gathering at the end, a signed form to get about them being willing to have their audio and video shared. The third aspect that we're hoping to accomplish with this campaign, as you're all out on the streets collecting declarations and hopefully also video and audio testimony, is educating folks about their property rights. So at the Coalition, we do a lot of Know Your Rights training about how to handle police interactions. But this summer, starting in June, we started going out with information about how to protect your property and what your rights are and how to get back your property. And we have a handout there that will be folded, which is the last page in your packet here, which is made for you to hand out and do outreach with folks. So even if people haven't witnessed this and can't give a declaration, and even if they can't give testimony to what they've experienced but are living on the streets, they would be interested in learning about these policies. And this tells people how to address the police and DPW if they're coming to clean their area or a friend's area. This distinction between abandoned and unattended property. When we were doing this summer, a number of people started putting up just signs on their tent that this is not abandoned. And some strategies of how to address the agencies. But what we also want to do, which we've been less successful at, and we're hoping this blitz can really also invigorate, is that when folks are living on the streets and are witnessing this, if they feel comfortable taking video recordings of this happening as it's going on, this is really strong. This is what was critical in Los Angeles in getting an injunction to stop the police doing exactly this. They had an organized cop watch program going out and getting police on video clearly going against what their policies were, and saying things that prove that they did not understand the policy and were not following it. And we've have maybe 4 videos showing little pieces of this, largely by advocates who were there at the time. But we want to let people know that they can also, take out their cell phone and take a video. Now, we understand there can be repercussions of this from DPW workers and SFPD and getting moved along. But for those of who want or feel comfortable doing that, we want to give them the tools. And if you see on the on this property sheet handout on the page with the image, oh wait. Is this the video? Yes. Yes, that is. Okay, so on the far left-hand page of this, it gives some instructions for how to do this on video. So, it's clearly stating on the video that this property is not abandoned and that it's unattended, being clear of what the property is of value, and then also like asking if they're saying that this is a health hazard, asking them, right, why is this a health hazard? Why are you throwing this away, right? To get that justification on video. What we're really seeing though is that when we start taking the video, they start just saying, we're gonna bag and tag this, bag and tag, bag and tag, bag and tag. That's fine, but if they're bag and tagging, then let's videotape and then take account of what is being bagged and tagging, because we can access through our sunshine requests what was bagged and tagged that day. And if we find somebody who's willing to go to DPW and try to retrieve their stuff and they're unable to, we want to understand what's happening to that. We don't know when this decision is being made about the health hazard. All we know is that people are not able to get their stuff back, and this property is not being stored, right? And then it also has on here, and this is also for all the viewers who are watching this, to email Kelly Cutler all of any video or anything you collect. We also have a process for returning the declarations and whatnot that are going to go through Kelly. So those are sort of that's the 3-pronged strategy of the declarations for the legal case, getting the testimony for where you would record folks telling their stories of lost property that we can use to advocate around this issue and bring into City Hall, and then educating folks about their property rights and this new policy and how they can take video footage, audio footage to record this stuff happening. And so yeah, that was a lot. We can do a big Q&A now. Great.
Hi, I'm Denise Dory. I'm curious if, say the person has their own cart, not a shopping cart, but their own, a cart they bought, say a luggage cart, suitcases, will they take those? Is that their policy now, to take, even if it looks kind of messy,
They're supposed to bag and tag.
And then you have to go
get it.
get
no
it?
reason to go into that
So
baggage.
do they still take it and then you have to go get it from them later?
Yes, they're
Yes.
taking it.
Ew.
They're taking it off.
Unless you're there, or unless somebody is there at the
Oh.
time.
Well, even if they're there
Well,
right now.
well, right, and that's what we want to capture on video. But if you're there and you're claiming your property, they're supposed to let you take all of that property. And so we do have some video where the person is there and there are cops standing there, and we also have video of people saying that if you try to get your stuff, you will be arrested. That is going against their policy, and that's the type of evidence that we want people to videotape in action, but also to share in their testimony and to share in the declarations. Yeah, Martha, you had your hand up long
I
time
have
ago.
a small, incredibly nerdy suggestion.
Yeah?
The last line of the declaration, I declare under the penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. I think it's just a tad more correct to say, and might just have one more layer toward being more acceptable by somebody who wants to nitpick, to say, I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true and correct. Sorry to.
Okay, I'm just saying it loud so you can look at it in the video again. I don't have my, oh wait, no, I don't have a pen. Under of the laws of California?
I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California.
Okay, under the laws of the state of California. I'll make a mark. This is coming from the legal folks, so I'll
All right.
check with them.
Cross those T's and dot those I's.
We like nitpicking. That's good.
So
The
what
thing is,
would-
like, if somebody is able to state what their mailing address is, or whether they work in the city or live in the city, that would be one more kind of specificity that people report of information. So, I mean, if they just.
Yeah,
wanna
we have
say,
no
"Oh,
contact
so this is
information on
California,"
here,
like it
then.
says, that's great as a minimum, but if they're able to say, you know, I live in this neighborhood, or I live at this address if they're willing,
Mhm.
or I work at this organization.
Yeah.
Maybe that's.
So we will, I definitely think it's useful to have some contact information on. We do have questions of location of when the stuff was taken, right?
It has email address or phone number.
Oh, we do have it. Okay, good.
But-
So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just like, it's just like a technical background thing to have a contact, like a physical contact of some kind to begin the declaration.
Right, it's just that with many of those folks on the street,
Yeah, I
and
know,
yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah. So those are good points. Do note, yeah, to get people's contact information. We have printed these out, so if you want to leave tonight, you know, we're going to talk about like the mechanics of doing this. I think we're good to take those for now as the lawyers have looked over this, but I will go back and ask them about adding those other points. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe you could add a line for the phone number, maybe that would be
Or
good.
website.
But,
To how to contact us?
no,
Or
so you can
for-
contact them?
Yes, so on the last, before they sign, we ask what is your email address or phone number
Oh, okay.
that you can be reached.
All
And
right.
many people might also want to give you their social worker's phone number, or a family phone number, or a second contact number. But also, you know, yeah.
Or a
Oh,
service-
but we also want, just because
or
some people
service
might
provider.
remember the case we were doing in the past, you might get questions about that. That was a very different case. We were actually trying to get people monetary rewards for what they lost.
Mm.
But that's not the goal, and that's not within the purview of this. So just be sure as you're talking with people to make clear the expectations, you know, that we would be contacting you to, you know, to follow up to make your case, but there's not like a main
when you-
individual
When you go
case
to
on this.
City Hall, and maybe, I'm not sure how possible this is, but it might just be a pipe dream. You can ask the legislators to require DPS to videotape what they're doing. Just like the police, they have their body cams. Well, they did that in their own self-interest because, you know, they're saying I was attacked and whatever, but they could use it in their own self-interest too, because if they get sued enough times, they're gonna lose money and they'll want evidence that, oh, look, this was disposable garbage and we had the right to throw it away. So that's just a pipe dream, but I don't know how legal that might be to require them to tape it. But you could throw it out there at City Hall and say, well, look, see, we tried to reach this level, but they're not cooperating. You could use it against them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And I think what we're trying to do is get leverage through enough of these declarations to show that this is a pattern and that there needs to be accountability. DPW already takes photos at every site they clean up. This is the site with the tents, they clean it up. This is the site without the tents, because they have to be accountable to the house people who are calling to complain them. And I think one of the things we can ask is to be equally accountable to the people you're taking their property, right? So.
No, I meant the videotape of the whole operation.
Yes, but
Right,
taking
right.
evidence of why you need to destroy something,
Right.
yeah, is a good point. Mhm.
How do we determine if they're tagging things like sufficiently? Like, what does a well-tagged sweep or cleanup look like? Like, do you have pictures that you could post on the page, or?
Yeah.
I've never seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's so-
So I think our definition of a good bag and tag is if the property actually gets to the yard and is filed. And so the way we'll be able to judge that is that if the person, so this would be the case of like if you were filming, or if someone you educated about this were filming the process going on and there was something being bagged and tagged in that moment, we would be able to then go and look, well, was it filed in the DPW's book? they describe, you know, the items that were bagged and tagged, and they describe the location and time. What we're finding is that items are not getting to the DPW yard, like none. And we don't know if they're deciding on the spot that, oh, this is a health hazard, we're throwing it away, it's trash. They used to be doing a lot of that, but when we start videotaping, they put it in the truck. What I'm thinking is that they're taking that truck and then they're disposing of it after the fact. So they've gotten smart to not just putting it in the dumpster, though they do that a lot too. So
You
I mean,
almost have to
we can
follow.
do
What does
that.
a tag look like? Like, is it a certain color or like what?
So yeah, there are these. We had one this summer when we were piloting this out. There is a policy of tagging with certain colors on certain days and like doing all this. And one of our people filming like called them out because they didn't even know about that. But that's kind of like a. So what we all have your email now. What I'll do after this is I'll circulate you both the official SFPD and DPW policy if you really want to get into that and to learn so you can educate folks on the street better about it. But right now our main thing is like people are losing their stuff. It's getting put in the back of a DPW truck and they're going to the DPW yard and they're not able to receive it.
Right, and what would be most like specifically helpful is like, you know, what a tag bag with appropriate colors looks like, because as they're doing a sweep and you're reporting, you have no way of knowing whether they're really tagging it or whether they're just like pretending to tag it and they're gonna trash it. Because how do you even go back to the center and then like look for this item, like, you know?
Well, the person who loses their property would know what they lost and would know their item. As an onlooker, like most of the operations, there's a dump truck and there's a DPW truck, and they're putting trash into the dump truck and bagged and tagged stuff into the DPW truck. Now, sometimes they're putting trash in there too, but that's what we want to capture is folks. If they say they're bag and tagging it, the person wants that property. We have video of that property going in that truck, and then we'll be able to verify that it did not show up later.
Yeah, I was thinking more if the person's not there, but.
Yeah, so if the person's not there, there's nothing we can do about, unfortunately, any of this unless somebody saw it. That's why with this we're really focused on not just asking people, have you lost anything to DPW and the police, because a lot of times they're pretty sure, like they know the folks around their space, but if they didn't see it, and it doesn't have to be theirs, but we want people who are witnessing this happening.
Yeah, my point specifically is about just, you know, if there's a DPW staff person, like just to make sure that they're actually tagging it, because sometimes it may look like they're putting it in the right truck and not the dump truck, but they're not really. They're probably going to go and throw in the trash later. So in the moment, you can kind of see, do they really intend to take this to the right place? Are they really tagging it the right way? I don't know what the tagging the right way looks like. So
at this point, that's not even like. Well, right now, what we're seeing a lot of is that people are actually there. Like they're standing right there and they're like, don't take my stuff, and they're taking it right in front of them. And then it's when the next step, when they go further to go to DPW, I don't know if I've actually met anyone that has gotten their stuff back. So that tells you a lot, you know. So it's usually, because I don't even know at that process of bagging and tagging if they do that at the lot. Like right there, they're just like putting it, you know, in the truck. So yeah, so it's mostly for at that point as a witness, and you would just want to film, and then it would be the follow-up.
they never tag during the sweep, it's usually after they get to the site.
I've never seen them.
Okay.
I've seen them once.
Once?
I've seen them once, like separate things so that it doesn't all go.
There's
in the
some, so there's a video that I took where, and they know me and I've got my video, I'm not like subtle about it, and they said bag and tag so many times, and it was like comical. I was just like, okay, I get it. As you're ripping someone out of their tent, handcuffing her while you're taking her stuff. And so that's kind of the larger, issue that's going on. But basically with the bag and tag, like they weren't even necessarily bagging and tagging it. It was what they were going to leave and what they were going to take. So they said bag and tag, and they would put it in there to go. But it wasn't as like how the description, the word of bag and tag sounds like. That process is